Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show.
Welcome everyone for joining us for another weekly session of our Mission Matters. Every week we put together a speaking panel and we create diverse topics. Last week's topic was focused on mental health. This week's topic is focused on social media. It's always on Thursday at 4 p.m. PST. This week's topic is really going to be focused on which social media platform to use for your business. And to give everyone some more context, our company is called Mission Matters. We are a media platform focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. Our mission is ultimately to amplify your purpose so that we can inspire and educate future generations. And so the way that we go about doing this is we actually have a whole media division in our company. We have recorded over 4,000 podcast episodes, and we create a lot of content. I think we're recording anywhere from 3 up to 10 episodes per day. In our peak, we recorded, I think, 22 episodes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Adam. But, we then create a lot of this content and we want to keep sharing it to the masses. And then on the flip side, we have a whole podcast agency division where we help individuals and companies launch podcasts. We have a marketing division as well. And then also we have a whole book publishing division where we publish over 150 authors. So our goal is to keep generating content and be able to provide services just like this for people on an ongoing basis. And so with that, would love to have our guests or our audience or our speakers here provide an introduction. Adam is our moderator. And with that, I'll pass the baton to Adam and to take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Shirag, and thank everybody for joining. And Shirag, sometimes you like to just kind of relax in the background, see everybody else answer. But today, I know you're going to be really participating because this is where you are the master of these social media platforms. I believe Gloria say earlier, she says, I'm looking for tips. Well, Gloria, you and I are both looking for tips. And who do I get mine from? Shirag. I'm like, what should we be doing next? So I'm excited to talk to everybody about this. I guess just to get to start with introductions, maybe Elizabeth, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
Oh, sure. Okay. Thank you, Adam. And thank you, Shirag, for bringing us together today. I know I've been in lots of rooms and this topic is always coming up. People are always wondering, and I'm so glad to be here today to receive the clarity. So I am Elizabeth Yo. I am a United States Navy veteran, entrepreneur, and I am a Money Matters author through my two colleagues here, Adam and Shirag. I'm an advocate as well. And then just as of yesterday, literally, I just finished the whole program. I just became a John Maxwell speaker, coach, and trainer. I facilitate and moderate. I'm a caregiver and a mother. So I am really happy to be here. I serve women veteran community. That's my focus, my mission, my vision. And that's me in a nutshell. So thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. And I yield the mic back to you, Adam. Thank you.
All right. And David, I believe, is next.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Shout out to Elizabeth. We bumped into each other yet again. That's actually why I came in, just to show love to Elizabeth, but I'm glad to be here. I currently a 5-time author, soon to be 6. I have a podcast as well called the Be Your Own Hero Show. It's my mini small Superman getup. Encourage other people to find out what their inner superpower is and just live life in that space of just thinking of themselves at the highest level. And then I also have a few stocks as well. But books is at the forefront of what I do currently.
All right. Thank you, David. Appreciate you sharing. Just to get us kicked off, so social media platforms to use for business. I mean, I guess I'll start us on this one. So some of the big ones that we use or we're starting to use is Clubhouse. So that one's been something that's been on our mind, and Shirag is kind of spearheaded and getting groups together and growing here. I think Elizabeth and David were active, and I know Shirag's active in here. So maybe who wants to start off with sharing their experiences with like Clubhouse and what that's done, or if anything, for your business?
I think this has been pre-COVID, or I guess now that things are open, right? But before that, I'd say over the last year, Clubhouse has been a really interesting way to quickly meet people from literally all walks of life. It's a curated room. I think in the beginning when the platform launched, there was a lot of like vetting. So it was always like friends of friends that were in the rooms or that were joining Clubhouse in the beginning, right? Because it was a very exclusive platform when it launched. And I think with that, it did create a lot more opportunities for business. Like the platforms like TikTok, for example, really blew up because a lot more kids were using it. I think it was called Musical.ly back in the day before it changed to TikTok. But this platform, I think similar to LinkedIn, it started off with the business community. And it's been a very interesting way to meet people and connect with them, especially because things were locked. It's funny, and I don't know if it's a direct correlation to this, but as Clubhouse started to grow, we saw the number of podcasts explode as well. I think pre-COVID, there was about 1 million podcasts. Right now, there's a little over 2 million. So it literally doubled in the last 1 to 2 years. And so for us, it's been amazing for business and to see the growth of it. I consider Clubhouse to be like a podcast on steroids. So probably how I kind of see it, but I'm pro Clubhouse, a really easy way to connect with folks, right? You can easily follow them here and then you follow them on Instagram or Twitter and then you DM them, you get to meet them offline. And that's pretty much how you navigate social media, right? So it just kind of depends on what the incentive is ultimately and how you want to navigate it. But it's been a very easy, quick way for me to meet a lot of people, especially when you listen into rooms and when you ask to join the panel, just like David did just a second ago. So yeah, anyway, my 2 cents on Clubhouse.
All right, I'm going to step in. So is that okay? So for me, and thank you, Sharad. I'm going to keep giving Sharad the shout out for Clubhouse because remember, Adam, I was like,
me too. I'll chime in, Elizabeth. Me too. I give Sharad the shout out
on this phone. Okay, Sharad. So yeah, I was a total hater. I'm going to just be full disclosure. And I was so aggravated. Like, he's like, come on, get on it. I'm like, no. So I'm finally on it. And it has been between this one and LinkedIn for me personally. And honestly, I wasn't an Instagram user either heavily, like until I hit this platform. That's the major way. And I've been DM'd like out of this world. So, and I used to say everything wrong. My kids are helping me, correcting me. I'm like, yeah, I'm Instagram. And now you guys are like, no, that's not what you say. So I'm really, I'm really learning and I'm enjoying that. The best thing that's happened for me that I think about this is that, and I'm probably dating myself, but this is like BNI on steroids. This is like the mass networking platform worldwide because, when you have networking groups, old school days, I'll say, which was like pre this 2019, but when you have networking groups, you're limited to your territory, your locale, and in your city, state, or country usually, right? You're just kind of networking with locals and businesses local, which we need to do, absolutely. But I think it's a fantastic platform to pull in people from all over the country we're in, not to mention the world. And it's really important for people to share, especially leaders, business leaders, people in business, people managing businesses, to understand globally how people think about business, because everybody does not do business the same as done in your city. And I didn't really feel the impact of that in corporate until I went and worked for a company that's German based, but was trying to open up and do business here in Los Angeles. So they were taking their German mindset and how they do business in Germany and trying to make that work here in Los Angeles. And people do not understand that even though it's the United States of America, the way you do business in New York City, the way you do business in Los Angeles, the way you do business in San Francisco, even within our state of California, is very different from San Diego to Los Angeles to San Francisco. The mindset's different. You're dealing with a lot of different demographics per mega city. So I really enjoy hearing the perspectives and also seeing other opportunities that are coming up in regards to alliances, partnerships, collaborations that would never have happened if I didn't have this global type platform. So I've been able to put in talks of partnerships with a woman in Germany, okay, who introduced me back here to somebody in Dallas. Okay, I live here. I would have never met this person otherwise, and I live in the United States, right? So for me, it's on a global reach, and it has just literally changed the whole landscape of how we can interact and do business and actually impact communities worldwide. So for me, I love the Clubhouse, but I still love my LinkedIn, and I use Instagram to just maintain instant communication with people until we're ready to take it one-to-one, phone number to phone number. So yeah, that's me. Thank you for the floor, and I yield the mic back to you, Adam. Thank you.
David, chime in. I'm waiting on you too.
Similar to Elizabeth's experience, I came on this app originally for business reasons. My reason for being here was to connect with people that could help get to a certain point with my books and my podcasting stuff. However, my experience with Clubhouse has completely expanded and become like a hot air balloon, because now I find myself not only being interested in people that could help me with my books, but I also find people that are interested in wine, and people that are interested in art, and people that are interested in fragrances and real estate and so many other interests that if I hadn't connected on this app, I don't know if I would have connected with those people. Even Elizabeth, I do have to shout out Elizabeth as well, because I wouldn't have connected with Elizabeth if it wasn't for Clubhouse. And that's just honest to God truth. And it's funny how, and I was just talking about this in another room, but I find it funny and awesome at the same time that even though everybody has like a different career and a different path, different things that they've been called to do, everybody's mindset that I've interacted with has been very, very similar to my own, which is working towards something better, working towards a better life, and so on. And so even though I started off on this app with just strictly business in mind, I do find that I come on this app to just chill out. I come on this app to do business. I come on this app to have spiritual conversations with people. I come on this app to see what's this, for example, like the singles rooms, like they have rooms for people that are single. Like none of that would have happened if I wasn't on the app, and I wouldn't have connected with so many awesome people that I've connected with if I wasn't on the app. So my experience with the app has been awesome. I just got on Green Room today, but I'll probably still remain here. But I have loved my experience on the app because it exposed me to so many other interests that if I hadn't joined the app, I would still have those interests, but it would be a very, I guess you could call it a select group of people. It wouldn't be as broad as it is. And so the app for me has allowed me to explore different parts of me that otherwise probably would have taken me forever to find out. So yeah, those are my 2 cents on the app. I love the app, and my name is David, and I'm done speaking.
Elizabeth and David are so formal. Elizabeth's like, I will yield the mic back to you. Dave's like, I'm done. All right, guys. This is fire. Just to be clear, Elizabeth, unmute. Stay unmuted for a moment. This is fireside chat style. This is not an interview or anything else like that on the other side of things. So this is supposed to be interactive. So I yield the mic back to you after I ask another question. How does that sound?
You know what? Let me tell you the truth. So a woman that comes to my room, okay, and I didn't know, I wasn't doing any of that at first. And I love her because she is so kind and is so wonderful at explaining why it's important to say it. And so let me tell you why. So she has an impairment, visual, audio. And so for those with impairments, it's very difficult for them in an audio format to understand or distinguish between the speakers. So they're never sure when one speaker is done and another one picked up, and they can get lost in the conversation and be confused about what thought is coming from what person, and it makes it hard for them to jump in. And this is how she broke it down to me. And so she said, so when you say whatever it is, what you do is introduce yourself. My name is Elizabeth. You say your thought, and then when you're finished, please say Elizabeth, and I am done speaking, or I am complete, or I yield the mic, because then it lets them know that I have completed what I had to say, and they know that another speaker is getting up on deck ready to speak, and they can maintain and stay in constant contact with the conversation that's at hand. So that is the reason why I'm so firm, because I wasn't doing it all. I would just go on mute and like, diary. And I didn't understand until she was in the room. And so I love Miss Valerie. I think you saw her this morning, David. So she comes to my room now and so supportive. And I appreciate that because that was the first time I had that encounter. So I hope that helps and not sound like it's so formal, but more so for those with hearing or visual impairments. So I am Elizabeth and I yield the mic.
On purpose.
Whoa, well, that was an education piece for me, Elizabeth. And I should have known you were doing something with intention. I already knew. Don't even know why I stepped into that one, but thank you. That was actually very, very helpful. So the first question I asked was kind of pointed, right? Like, what do people like about Clubhouse? And I wanted to get that one out of the way first, just because obviously a lot of people that click on this in the future are going to be listening to it because they're curious about Clubhouse, right? But what are just your favorite platforms just in general that you kind of use day to day, specifically for business, that you found kind of useful? Oh, I'm done. Thank you.
Everyone's strong. Okay, so I think business-wise, probably LinkedIn is my fan favorite because a lot of the content there just is focused on the business side. It doesn't become personalized. You don't really get the political attacks that you see a lot more frequently, like on Facebook or sometimes occasion on Twitter, right? Or even some of these other platforms. But I'm a huge fan of the LinkedIn content, because I think it's more relevant. There's a huge business opportunity. It's easy to connect with folks, especially when you find a reason to. And I would say LinkedIn, it's easy to connect with folks. I like their setup. I like that they've turned it into more of like a social platform. What I am annoyed about is that I don't understand how their platform works. I feel like their algorithm like changes frequently. I post something, in some instances I get a lot of people that view the content, and then in other instances, like no one sees it. And sometimes there's simple, just like questions of like the most random questions. Like one day I put like who loves green tea? And I got a lot of likes and comments, super random. The other day, just to test it, I put who loves coffee? And I got like one like on that post. So it's changed a lot over time from when I was using it actively back in 2017, really. I think when they were trying to compete with a lot of these other bigger platforms, it's become a solid content hub. And what I really like about LinkedIn the most is the content there that other people share, like the articles. It's usually where I go to find my business content that I need to consume something for the day. So that's kind of like where I go to, I guess, back in the day, my dad would read the newspaper quite a bit. That's kind of what I go to LinkedIn for now. So I'm Chirag and I'm done speaking.
Like it. I basically concur with whatever Chirag says because he's right every single time. Adam, would you second that? Or he absolutely knows these platforms and I love it. So for me, I love LinkedIn. Number one, absolutely hands down. LinkedIn has so many, you can go to so many levels on a professional level. And just like what Chirag was saying, it's very clean. People tend to keep a lot of personal, non-business like things out of there, but it's very the content is hands down solid. And so I also use it for research and just to gain, kind of where the thoughts are of different industries, business leaders and the like. Also, I love their offerings to the veteran community. So I'm a vet and a lot of organizations do not honor us. And that's just hands down the truth. But LinkedIn is absolutely one that does. And so they provide that premium access for free for a year for all veterans and military families. And I think that is a great way to give us a leg up. It really helps us to be able to grow our networks wherever we end up transitioning out to, because a lot of times we don't transition out to where we started. So I was born and raised in Cleveland. When I got out of the Navy, I moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota. So it's not like you go right back to your home state and know all the things that, are pertinent to that state, city, or locale that you are used to or grew up in. So when you move to a new location, you have to create a new network, right? You have to get to know solid people. And so I would say LinkedIn is absolutely a great forum to find real business-minded, business-focused people. You can find jobs, you can find information about companies, and it's a great platform in that aspect. So on the networking side, because you need to always have a funnel of people that you're meeting to create new opportunities, keep learning and growing. I gotta say, I love this platform. And honestly, it's only been like the last month that I've really like fallen in love with it and started to really utilize all of its capabilities thus far. And it has created so many opportunities for me that I just never saw coming, connections I would have never had. And honestly, even coincidences that are happening. For example, I met a woman, she reached out to me, owns a company in San Francisco. She's Chinese. She and I had a business talk conversation a couple of days ago. So I just happened to mention, I was, from Ohio. I went to Bedford High School. I lived in Bedford Heights, and she stopped me right there. And she's like, oh my God, I went to Beechwood High School. When we moved to America, we moved to Ohio, and I went to Beechwood High School. That's 10 minutes down the road from me. We played each other in high school football. So I'm like, what is happening? What is happening right now? So how does that happen, right? How would I have ever met this woman? So thank you, Clubhouse, because just like I said, the outreach is global, so it just opens up a lot of doors, opportunities, and it's a great place to learn and grow. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I'm Elizabeth, and I yield the mic to you, David.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That was a nice alley-oop. I felt that. I do have to agree with Elizabeth in terms of the most interaction I honestly get is on Instagram, and that's due to me being an author. So my product is a personal product. It's part of my personal brand. And I find that because of me being an author, and because of the content that I write, when I do post things about like my book or about whatever I'm doing, whether that's podcasting or books or whatever the case may be, I do get a lot of love from Clubhouse to Instagram. And most of the time, I'm not looking for it. I just happen to be sharing my message of how I got involved in books and what keeps me going with that. And so people resonate with me because of that. And so I've connected with genuinely with people, but I've also gotten book sales because of Clubhouse and because people have resonated with my message. So right now, outside of Clubhouse, I would have to say Instagram is what I use most. And I'm getting into Twitter now because of somebody that Elizabeth and I know by the name of Michael. He's been staying on my ass about getting on Twitter. So I'm on Twitter now. So now Twitter is a step behind Instagram for me. So it's Clubhouse first, Instagram second, and then Twitter. And those are the most places where I'm most active. And I've connected with a bunch of people that have really resonated with like my books and things like that. So yeah, outside of Clubhouse, it's Instagram and then Twitter.
Are people using like Instagram for business a lot still? I know Sharad uses Instagram quite a bit. We use it on our end, but it's more for distribution for the content. But we haven't really done, we can always do a better job on every platform, and there's always room for improvement, but we haven't really done too much on Instagram as of this point, other than distribution for our content, of course.
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends on what you're trying to build. So, I got to check you guys out because I saw that Chirac followed me, so I'll follow you back. Much love. And I always follow people back that follow me. So I'll check you guys out for sure. But I do find that for me, different things work for different people, right? But for me, taking a personal approach and making people almost feel as if they're going on a journey with me tends to work. And it makes people feel like more relatable. So sometimes I may post like a book that I'm working on or like a new book cover that I come up with. Because I do find that people do want to feel included in the book writing process or whatever you happen to be doing. And it was something that I tested out with how they felt about a specific chapter in one of my books. And I got a bunch of different responses based on different people's answers. Like some people had spiritual answers, some people had basic answers, some people had profound answers, and I took all of that and I applied it to my book. So I find that incorporating people in my book writing process has done wonders for me. So that's why I personally have used Instagram for book pictures that I may post about a book cover or my book period. I find that having people be included definitely helps for me.
Yeah, this is strong. Just to kind of add on to that, right? I think it just depends on the business, right? Because ultimately, if you're in a business like fashion, where visual and pictures are important, right? I think just by default, Instagram's probably one of your most important platforms to utilize when it comes to social media. If you're in anything like art, right, you need to showcase your art, right? And so Instagram's another amazing visual to do that. NFTs have been huge, especially I think when it comes to all these new NFT drops that are taking place. Instagram's a huge platform to take advantage of all that, so people can showcase, you can showcase and see who you are, what you've done in the industry, right? I think hospitality plays heavily off of that. The whole travel industry plays heavily off of Instagram. Bottom line, I think it just comes down to what is your business and where does your audience spend the most time, right? I think if you're doing something more business oriented and it's like very business heavy, I think Clubhouse and LinkedIn are probably the better platforms. If you're going after, Gen Z, for example, I think TikTok would probably make the most sense. Even YouTube, right? Depending on the quality, like the type of content you're creating. Bottom line is I think you have to know who your audience is and where they're spending the most time on internet.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Sherrod. Thank you, everyone, for this overview. Like, I'm taking notes, and I always learn from these things. Pretty cool. So this isn't quite social media, but I'm going to throw it out there, even though, because this is one of the things that we use a lot is, how about the good old-fashioned newsletter? Am I allowed to ask that question? Like, email? I mean, am I allowed, or is everybody get mad at me?
I'm mad at you. I'm joking.
Everybody disconnects at the same time. Thank you.
I like the newsletter. I do. I'm still a pen to paper, person. I need to write things down. If I get a newsletter, I still print it out so I can have it whenever I'm going to have a meeting, so I can take notes on it and then translate that back into some electronic format. But for me, I just kind of, I don't know. I'm always thinking about the alternatives. So I think we're so over dependent on things that we have to plug into electrical outlets that nobody ever considers the fact of what happens if we don't have power until that happens, right? So, and we just recently saw one of our states here in America, Texas, the whole state was out. It was ridiculous in the coldest part of the time for them. It's a lost art. I think it's something coming back that people appreciate, receiving something handwritten, receiving personal cards, receiving a letter, because it really shows that you've taken the time, and we're so quick on the draw with sending you a quick tweet, but it's just so impersonal. And I think people are realizing that although the technology is fabulous, and although it has many wonderful attributes and possibilities, it can still kill that personal touch, that human touch that we still need, because we're still human. So, I love the newsletter. I appreciate that. And I print it out. I print a lot of things out just to have paper copies. And I almost appreciate when I do, because when those times come when the lights do go out and there is no power, people never really consider that as we move into this, tech age and that we're living in more and more. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. So I still welcome it, Adam. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm done speaking.
I do want to highlight that point. I mean, I was just pointing like I wasn't mad, but I do appreciate also the importance of like postcards, right? I know that to some postcards might be outdated, but much to Elizabeth's point, I do find that when I do receive a postcard from somebody like in the mail, it's touching knowing that instead of somebody saying, hey, on Twitter or on Instagram or on Facebook, that you inspire them to do something. But when you get like a postcard in the mail, like that you're not expecting, and that's like really random, and you open up your mail and it's like a random postcard from a person that has been connected with you on social media, and they send you a message like, hey, I love what you're doing. I see what you're doing. Keep up the great work, whatever the message is. I do tend to hold on to those a little bit more. And I do find like sacred spaces in my house for those messages, like those personal messages. I mean, it's great to get them on social media. It's great. I don't downplay them. But I do remember the day when I got like a personal postcard, like in the mail, or whatever the case may be. So I do still love the like handwritten postcard or the handwritten letter or whatever you call it. I do still love that.
Yeah, I was going to add, I think when it comes to newsletters, I'm still subscribed to a bunch of newsletters outside of the Mission Matters newsletter. Of course, plug aside, I'm still subscribed, and I have been for, I think, almost a decade now to Seth Godin's newsletter that he sends out for his blog posts. I get Tim Ferriss's newsletter still just because they have a lot of valuable content that I've been following for a while now. And there's just so many cool things that I get to learn. Some that are a little bit outside. I don't read all of them, but I think a newsletter in general, especially when it comes to the marketing side of things, it's a great way to connect with your audience. That's very low touch, especially if you have a discount or a promotion that you're doing. Back when we used to actually be able to host events, we used to plug in a lot of our events through newsletters with some other media companies that I used to run in the past. And it was a great way, low touch way to get a lot of, event registrations to come in, for example. So have definitely received a lot of value from newsletter content. And it's still a very strong and relevant way to do marketing now if you're not doing it. And one of the best things you can do though, when it comes to newsletter content, is to create content that is actually valuable, that's more giving. If it's not giving like a discount or a promo, you want to provide valuable content for people so that they can learn from it. Ultimately is what I'm trying to get at. And one of the ways that we've done it at Mission Matters is podcasts. We have amazing speakers on our podcast, and it's a great way to plug in your podcast and to create this cycle so that people can stay in touch and know what's happening in any given moment.
All right, fine, everyone. I'm going to get working on the newsletter today. We've been a little bit negligent over here, but thank you, Chirag, for that. But I agree, though. I just like the newsletter, the whole thought process about it, and giving more and more valuable content there. Has anybody experimented with, I think this does fall in line of social media. Anybody done any text stuff, like text marketing or otherwise? I'm just curious.
In terms of text marketing, I haven't. I personally haven't, but I do feel like if you've built up I'm not going to call it a fan base, but like if you've built up like a certain audience and you want to send out like a text blast, I think that it is effective, but I personally have not used it yet. I don't know about anyone else, but I haven't used text blasting yet. But I've heard about it, of course, but I just haven't used it.
What about go ahead, Shrek.
Yeah, I was going to say for texting, I've run a few different campaigns in the past. I think it's the most effective in the forms of getting responses, because I think unlike other forms of marketing, like email, newsletter, like especially if you're sending it to personalized email, it already gets divided up in your inbox. And, it might end up in the spam folder or the promo folder, for emails that you're sending out. And I think people now are just getting bombarded because it's so easy, right, to send out emails. Whereas texting, there is a lot more regulation there to begin with, but if you're getting people who are actively engaged with what you're doing, it's an amazing way to have you need to have a direct call to action, and you want to keep it super short, right? So if you have a promo, if you have an event coming up, if you have what else have I done in the past? Usually it's been more discounts and promos to get people's immediate attention and get them engaged with what you're doing. But the response rate is higher than anything I've ever seen. But the only thing is that you need to make sure that you have your campaign clearly laid out and you have your call to action laid out as well.
How about any other just like, random apps that are out there, or social media platforms that maybe nobody's heard of that are small or anything? Anybody like testing anything out there?
Well, for me, I just was invited and did a podcast interview. I was interviewed on the Spotify Green Room. And so I still like Clubhouse better, but I'm not a podcaster yet. I'm waiting for direction from the two co-hosts here. I did the interview. The one thing that I noticed that was absolutely wonderful was the audio quality. And from what I understand from the person that interviewed me is that it was much easier to do, like, I guess, upload it or, broadcast it out on the pod platform. And so I don't know, other than just having been a part of that. But for me, I heard people comment on this before. For me, the screen is really dark. And I don't know about that. Like, I get it, what they're trying to do, but it's very, usually in a radio thing, it's not bright lights. But I just think maybe they're working on kind of the interface on the actual, appeasement for the eye might be something to work on, but I'm sure people like the dark. But that was not only my experience. I was going to ask Chirag what he thought about it, because you're the expert, Chirag. So I want to yield the mic to Chirag. Can you help us? Because I really don't.
Real quick, which platform was this once again?
Okay, this is the Spotify Green Room, and apparently it's a great one for podcasters. So I was wondering, what's your take on that? And have you used it or tested with it at all?
So I've heard of it. Yeah, no. Okay, so great question. I have not used it yet, so I am not entirely. And I know I've gotten good feedback on it, but I haven't had a chance to test it out myself. And unless and until I get to test it out, I can't really comment on it because I like to be able to navigate it like similar to Clubhouse, right? Like I think I was using Clubhouse for a couple months and realized, oh wow, this is basically just a podcast on steroids. This is what we do since we jumped on. I am curious to try that one, to try out Spotify's platform, just because I feel like it's supposed to be like a Clubhouse competitor. Correct me if I'm wrong, Elizabeth.
Yes, that's what they're doing. They're trying to compete, and since they already have the audio quality down, they've been doing this for a long time. So, I think that is the challenge, and maybe where they can. I don't know. It could give them a Clubhouse a run for their money. But again, I don't particularly think that they have it down yet. Honestly, this interface, having setting up rooms, pinging people in, I really think Clubhouse is just the absolute king of this type of interface. So that's all. But the audio quality was good.
Was it
really good?
Nice. Yeah, no, I know Twitter launched Spaces, which is the Clubhouse competitor. The one thing I have seen though, and I think the data clearly shows this, is that there's been a drop off of active users on Clubhouse because things are opening up. I don't know how long that's going to continue. And one of the beauties of Clubhouse is now they've gone international and they're first to market, right? So there's always a competitor edge, if you will, being first to market, and especially these tech companies, because one day you have 1 million users and like a month later you have like 50 million, right? And like things can just go super viral. So I haven't tried any of the other competitor platforms. It is something that I do want to do, and I think I might have better feedback once I do get a chance to try them out. But I know Clubhouse, I think, is still dominating when it comes to usage of like a platform through this mode or medium rather. But I am curious to see what happens with Clubhouse in like 6 months. I had a conversation actually just about this with someone else, or I feel personally that Clubhouse has a space and there's definitely an opportunity to build on Clubhouse. I just don't know yet if it's going to be like a top 5 social media platform, or if it's going to be like a top 10 or top 20 social media platform. So, but would love to get others' opinions on that too.
Yeah, I like that global reach. I mean, I am meeting people from, Iran, Tehran, Egypt, China. And one thing that is very insightful when a lot of when people from around the world are joining in, they are, especially it's a lot of tech, especially out of India, right? So what they're telling us, and a lot of people, even in China, more restrictive countries, I should say, they're not going to be able to have access to all of the different platforms that we do here. And that's something to really consider. So I guess depending on what your focal point is or what you're trying to do, the outreach and how far you're trying to get, if you want a global business stage, depending on what app is more acceptable and more legally utilized, I should say, or they have access to in more countries, that's probably the best one for you if that's your focus. But if it's music or if it's other things that you're not like trying to do a global outreach, then you don't really need to consider that. But it's really something to consider for your business, personal, or whatever your reasoning is for coming to these platforms, how far you're trying to reach out. Because a lot of countries, they have restrictions in place where they'll only allow you to have access to Twitter, or they'll only allow you to have access to Clubhouse, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So when someone doesn't have something on their bio, and this is how I learned it, a person said, a facilitator who was leading the room, he said, well, if you don't have if you don't have a Twitter and an Instagram, then you can't, you're not going to get called up to the stage. And so it wasn't until somebody got to the stage and said, well, I can only have, like an Instagram because we're not allowed to have Twitter in our country. Right. So it was, that's why I love this platform, because we're constantly learning, like globally, like how laws work, what kind of business they can do, limitations place. So it's really wonderful. I yield the mic.
I do agree with everything that Elizabeth said. Another platform that I am on that some people have talked about it. I'm not going to say not a lot, but some people have talked about is, in terms of podcasting, is Anchor. My experience with Anchor so far has been great, and I love it because Technically, all you have to do is record directly from like your phone. And then once you finish and you're satisfied with the episode or whatever you're doing, it uploads to all the other platforms. And I thought that was a really awesome way to get that global audience without having to travel to every single country that you want to travel to. And I know for me that it definitely did wonders for me, because even though I had plans to travel and I had goals and things like that I wanted to, places I wanted to visit and go, due to COVID, I couldn't do that. I couldn't travel. But I was still able to get that international audience because of Anchor. So in terms of podcasting and things like that, outside of Clubhouse, because much like Elizabeth, I've met some great people, and I always feel, I don't know about anybody else, but I always feel like international when I meet somebody from France, or I meet somebody from England, or I meet somebody from China, or I meet somebody from Portugal. And so outside of Clubhouse, in terms of podcasting, Anchor is definitely a close like second for me. Outside of like the traditional like Facebook and Instagram and all those other places, in terms of podcasting, it's usually Clubhouse, and then for me, Anchor. I haven't gotten into the green room yet. I used it like for the first time like today, but I want to see how it goes. I want to see how my experience is over there. But right now, yeah, it's Clubhouse and then Anchor in terms of podcasting.
Oh man, I feel like everybody's giving Chirag some more work here. I can feel his engine going back there. He's like, oh, what is this next? What is this? How's somebody on this green room or this other stuff that I'm not on? What's going on? I can feel him from over here, and we're on the other side of LA.
Oh, you know me too well.
No, that's Chirag. I already know it. Tomorrow he's gonna wake up like, Adam, come on, all right, this is what we gotta do. Do this. I'm like, all right, Chirag, fine, let's do it. All right, done. So we normally like to keep these at about an hour or so. Are there any other just things that you want to get out there, like on social media or otherwise? Any tips you want to give to anybody that may listen to this in the future, business wise, or regarding the social media or just marketing in general? I'll just kind of open up the floor to everyone if they have anything else they want to get out there.
If you want to be an author, I highly recommend Chirag and Adam. They are absolutely transformed my life by encouraging me to be a collaborative author in their Money Matters series. And they moved on to do such bigger and better things, and are going to continue to do so, especially after Chirag does his homework tonight on these other apps. So it is going to be phenomenal, and I'm forever grateful and humbled because remember, Adam, I was like, what? Right? What? And it has absolutely transformed everything, just like Adam said it would. And this app transformed everything, just like Chirag said it would. So these are definitely the go-to men to know. They are absolutely innovative and sustainable. They are reliable. They are everything I hope to be when I grow up. So I just am very humbled. I absolutely adore you two. And it's because of you that I'm doing these great things. I attribute a lot of that to both of you for encouraging me and enabling me. And I appreciate that forever, and just love you guys. So yeah, I yield the mic. Thank you.
Dang, I want to be like that too when I grow up. Thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate that. Very kind word.
So this is the Michael. This is the man of the hour.
There you go.
These are my favorite men on stage. It's awesome. So Michael, please, I want to introduce you to my publishers, my encouragers, my enablers to be, and they have contributed in launching me to where I am right now. I really do owe it a lot to them, as well as the Lord. They know it. And so I just want you to meet them. They're fabulous and wonderful. Michael is the man. Michael lives down the road from my mama in Ohio, and I did not know that, and honestly that's what sealed the deal for me. So I just love Michael, adore him. He is absolutely phenomenal. Michael, we talked about you earlier and lifted you up, and so I'm so glad you got on here before we got off, because these are the men that I have become an author. It's because of them. And so yes, please introduce yourself, Michael, before we wrap it up. It's okay, Adam, you gotta hear this guy. He's fabulous. Okay, Michael, take it away.
Adam, I need to hear what you heard, because I need to validate that it's not like urban legend, myth. If I'm on America's Most Wanted, if I'm trying to sell a master class, I got to hear what it was.
You must have been listening. That's exactly what she said.
Well, if you download my free book, if you buy my free download, you can be a blockchain disruptive innovator while manifesting your destiny to increase your.
Yes. Okay, don't let Michael fool you guys. He is the man to know. Okay, he's very humble. He's unassuming, but he is amazing. Okay.
All right. On that note, Shrag, you want to wrap it up?
Yep. Yes, indeed. So thanks again for tuning in. This was an amazing conversation and dialogue. And next week's dialogue, again, same time, Thursday, 4 p.m. PST. And so that will conclude today's episode. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And check us out and come back next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.